Welcome to Captain Planet Solar, an innovative venture seeking to provide investment opportunities and to help businesses access cheaper, clean solar energy. This presentation will aim to provide you with some detail about the idea behind Captain Planet Solar. We will further take you through our financial modeling. Here we will specifically look at our financial and sensitivity analysis. Finally, we will provide you with some recommendations as to the viability of this model. Captain Planet Solar is tackling two problems with one solution. So who's Captain Planet Solar and how exactly does it plan to save the world? Well, saving the world is maybe an overreach, but Captain Planet Solar is an innovative business seeking to fill a market gap in the delivery and use of solar energy by establishing a green energy share platform. Captain Planet Solar utilizes free commercial and agricultural space to install solar panels. The solution aims to combat common barriers to entry for both individuals and businesses who seek to take advantage of solar energy production. Captain Planet Solar connects capital from individuals who do not have access to rooftop space, as they're either renting or living in apartments, with businesses who can provide the rooftop space but lack the financial resources to commit to large-scale solar installations. Captain Planet Solar benefits investors by providing them with return on their investment, which they can then use to offset their energy bills. Businesses and agricultural farms benefit directly through the energy generation. What is this business's value proposition and how do the different parties benefit from the model? To start with, capital is sourced from individuals who lack rooftop space but still would like to directly invest into solar panels. These investors receive regular cash payments as return on investment. To enable energy production, Captain Planet Solar works with different segments in the commercial space to identify suitable rooftop spaces for large-scale solar panel installations. The companies provide their rooftop or otherwise available space for solar panel installations which are owned and maintained by Captain Planet Solar. These commercial properties use the produced green energy at a discounted price. So let us briefly talk about markets and customer segments. Captain Planet Solar plans to initially offer solar panel installation to 4 different client segments in Australia. These client segments consist of socially conscious commercial enterprises and are made up of both industrial and agricultural companies which are segmented by their electricity demand. After the establishment of the company in Australia, in year 4 of its operation, the company aims to expand its product offer to Singapore. Singapore is considered the appropriate option for the international expansion due to its geographic location, lack of local competitors, and a strong strategic and economic alliance with Australia. Now, the following slide will provide an overview of the approach and assumption used for the discounted cash flow analysis. The analysis follows the REIT method. There are 4 distinct revenue drivers that enable revenue generation. These are number of customers, energy production and usage, price, and selling back to the grid. The number of customers is used to derive the number of systems, which multiplied by the average energy production results in total usage. The usage is then multiplied by the price, which provides us with a total revenue through usage. Any excess production will be fed back to the grid and will provide an additional revenue stream. Both the assumptions for client acquisition and energy productions and consumption are adjusted for seasonal fluctuations. All assumptions used on the model are based on available market data. As we can see in this slide here, the revenue is expected to grow by almost 40 million by year 5, with medium to large enterprises contributing about 47% of that revenue. Revenue growth is expected to be steady based on very low client losses and ongoing business development by the employed sales force. Singapore is not expected to be a material contributor to the revenue in year 5. Now moving across into the expenses model. The expenses can be split into three main categories, which are staff and overhead costs, staff cost volume driven, and operating and maintenance expenses. The staff and overhead costs are mainly driven by headcounts and contractual agreements such as rents and IT license fees. Volume-driven staff costs are the commission earned by the sales force, which is highly correlated with client growth. Operating and maintenance costs are also variable costs, driven by the number of solar panel installations. The different client segments have different cost assumptions. Cost base is not growing as fast as revenue. This is due to the fact that the majority of the staff costs remain stable and installations are directly proportional to the number of clients. Now, drilling down a little bit further into the expenses, and as referred in the previous slide, below are the analyzed expenses by expense driver. As you can see, direct expenses are expected to triple from initially 5 million in year 1 to 15 million in year 5. Staff and overhead costs make up the majority of the expense base. However, the cost stabilizes after year 2 and does not grow in line with the revenue growth. Sales commissions also stabilize in year 3. This is mainly driven by the constant sales target assumptions used in the model. Operating and maintenance costs grow with the increased number of solar panel installations and continue to grow as the model assumes ongoing client growth. Now, looking at investment, the business setup investment spend is relatively low, with 1.4 million mainly attributed to IT systems. Unlike traditional startup models where the majority of investment is expected to occur in year 1, Captain Planet Solar has relatively low initial investment costs. However, ongoing investment costs are high, as every new solar panel installation requires additional investment, which results in significant ongoing investment spends for the company. In year 5, an annual investment spend of 47 million is required based on expected client growth in that year. Discounted cash flows and key matrices. This slide provides an overview of the most important matrices to evaluate the value contribution of the business proposal. Despite the fact that the business reaches break-even point from a net profit after tax perspective in 2022, all other matrices remain negative over the 5-year period. The net present value, both including and excluding terminal value, are significantly negative. As shown on the previous slides, the ongoing investment requirement to generate additional revenue is the main reason for the negative NPV. The revenue growth is strong enough to cover cash flow related to expenses, but is not able to cover the investment spent. Both the internal rate of return and discounted payback period are not applicable for the business venture due to its negative annual cash flow. And finally, to the sensitivity analysis. We identified 6 variables and performed sensitivity analysis on all of them. It was decided not to do further sensitivities on the discount factor, as management viewed the base case of 30% as appropriate. Looking at the other variables with a high and medium sensitivity, the investment cost per system was identified as the main driver for the negative NPV. We further analyzed numerous scenarios, with the result that 90% discount on the current investment cost assumptions is required to achieve a higher NPV. Increased client acquisition of 40% or higher solar factor of 20% would both result in a positive NPV when combined with a 10% investment cost scenario. Now, we conclude that both scenarios are highly unlikely. And last but not least, to our recommendations. Considering the negative NPV of discounted cash flows, it is recommended not to pursue the business venture under the proposed operating assumptions. Even a more long-term view of, say, 10 years plus would only result in a positive recommendation if expense and investment cash flows could be reduced significantly. Now, that leaves us with one potential alternative, and that is to investigate the potential of joint venture with a solar panel producer or an existing energy provider to reduce the fixed expense and investment cash flows. Thank you for your time and for listening to the presentation.